So hey, Sojourner, welcome to Faking It. I was going to say something else, but it's definitely Faking It.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
sure.
You're here. It's all good.
Hola.
Yeah, welcome to Faking It, an Evoke Media podcast. We're here at Artscape Witchwood Barns, which is our new HQ, and there's like a whole party happening. So if you hear any hoots and holler and, you know,
Snoop
90s.
Dogg.
Yeah. I was walking through, I'm like, wow, it's like tons of 90s music happening. There's people like singing in the bathroom. Like, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, so welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so how do we know each other? Let's talk about that.
So, eons ago, in 30 BC.
30 BC.
When I was journeying across the desert. I was a wee little intern looking for an internship for my fourth year, like my final year internship program. And I came across Evoke Media's casting call or whatever. And I shot you an email while I was in New York for Christmas break. And I was just
I didn't even know that's where you were.
Yeah, and I was really hoping to. I was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. She's going to ask me to come in for an interview like a week from now. And I'm going to be like, I can't do that.
Yeah. You shot me your resume and all that. And I was like, oh, looks good.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, looks good. Like,
I think the first day I met you was on your first day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you were like, oh yeah, you look qualified. Come along.
I love my coordinator style. It's just like, looks good. Come on in. That's fine. Never met you, but
I mean, realistically though, I feel like after one or two times of like hiring someone that way, you'll be able to tell whether.
Yeah, you can. Also, with
and you can
email,
always pass it off as like, oh, this was a trial.
Yes, totally. That's true. But like, I think that I learned a lot about like people through email communication. It sounds crazy.
Surprise.
Yeah, but like honestly, I can tell a lot about somebody through their resume, their email communication. I'll look up them like on social media and just see like what's the deal. I don't think I've looked any of these guys up, but I've started looking up like not our new interns, but like I think that's a good thing to do, like to look them up on LinkedIn to see like what's going on. But I think also just like strictly from email communication, seeing like clear communication. Not a lot of confusion going on. So yeah, anyways, but I knew. I could sense it. You were coming to me.
Sense it.
Yeah, so you went to Ryerson. You're finished now.
Yeah, this is weird for me. I feel like I'm going back in September, but they're not going to call me back.
You're not going back in September. You're not allowed.
I'm not allowed.
You're not welcome back in September because you're not a student anymore.
I know. This is very weird for me, though. Like adult life. And I'm just getting by.
And that was your undergrad,
wearing two
right?
different shoes.
I was going to wonder if you're going to mention. Okay, so Sojourner's in the office today, and she's just like, I'm wearing two different shoes. Like, okay, what? And I look, at first I couldn't really tell.
Yeah,
I mean, they're close enough, but like, you full out have to. We'll post a picture later.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, guys. And I looked down at my feet a few times this morning, but I wasn't wearing my contacts. So I was like, oh, wow, one shoe looks like, I looked at one foot and it was like really white.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, like I've had these shoes since I was 10.
You're doing good.
I'm really taking care of my stuff.
Lo and behold, it's a newer shoe.
Yeah.
Not that old. Wow.
But,
well, I mean, it makes for an interesting story. And then you told the whole office, which was hilarious. I mean, I kind of facilitated that, but still, nonetheless, funny story. She's wearing two different shoes. Look. And then everyone's like, that's okay. We're weird too. Like Frank's like, I've done stuff like that. We're like, oh yeah. No, yeah. It's really wild stopping school because you've done it for all of your life, like really, but probably before, when you had your first memory, I kind of feel like I was already in some sort of like daycare or something like that. Yeah. So you're kind of always in it.
I think you started. I think I started at 3 in daycare.
I started really young at daycare because my mom didn't have any sort of like, there was no time off really. Like she kind of had us and went back.
Oh.
So I was like fairly young when I was in daycare. I don't think she got
less
like
than 1. No. Or yeah.
Probably.
Whoa.
I'm pretty sure. No, well, at least that I went to a daycare. It wasn't like a structured system in the desk. I don't know if I could hold my head up at that point, but no, it was very. I think I was like
system.
I was.
You were in the system.
I was in the system at 1. No, it was back then. It was very like you pop your baby out. Hopefully everything's all right, and you just like carry on. I think my sister, she had some sort of difficulties or something like that. She's a preemie, but with me, I think I was separated from my mom pretty quickly. So yeah, I don't really have a memory of not being in like a system. I mean, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, so getting out of school is pretty bizarre. But did you like your program?
Yeah, I loved it. Honestly, 4 years flew by so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I literally remember the first day of high school.
Yeah.
So it's weird now to
Oh my God, you do?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I marvel
I
at
literally
people's
just
memories.
graduated though.
I know, that's true. I'm like 10 years older. I'm like, what?
Oh my God, you do.
You do? That's so funny.
Yeah, it's my amazing memory and
And
coordination.
your youth.
Yeah, my youth.
My shoe picking abilities. That's the wrong shoes. But yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah. So did you, what did you take out of like your program? So like, what are you interested in?
What I really
What do you
liked about
do?
it. What do you do?
Why are you here?
Well, what I really liked about Ryerson RTA specifically was that it was very half hands-on, half theory.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with media programs, I feel like a lot of the programs out there are either all in hands-on
Yes.
or all in just theory, and you're in a lecture like all day.
That's right.
I really liked it because it was like half and half. So we actually got to sit in a lecture and then like go out into our tutorial and actually use the equipment
Right.
and start shooting and working with props and stuff like that.
Hmm. And RTA, that's like radio, television.
Yeah,
for
radio,
people who don't
television,
know. Yeah.
arts. Yeah,
Cool.
School of RTA. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was great. I definitely took a lot from it. I loved the fact that they really make sure that you're well versed in almost everything. That was like a big thing that they pushed. They're like, nowadays nowadays everyone's their own content creator and everyone's their own boss, and no one's really gonna hire you if you like. It's great if you can specialize in one thing, but you're way more valuable if like you're pretty good at like 5 things, because then they don't have to hire 5 different people. They can.
That's
just
true.
hire,
And like jobs these days love condensing everything from like, oh, you're a social media person, but you're also going to do the website and your marketing, and you're also the department for like outreach. And it's just the way that it is now. I don't know if it's because it's so accessible or it's all like in one place, or I don't know what.
Credentialism, man.
Yeah.
The stakes are just way higher.
It's true. Yeah. But it's still good to be well-rounded because you need to know your own stuff for when you leave. You can be a little bit more of a self-starter.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, the fact that I'm even here right out of college, I was like pretty impressed with myself with that. So I was like, you know what? You're doing okay.
You should be. Yeah, like you wrote some blogs for us. You were like our blog writer.
Yes, I would tell people I was like, I'm in creative development.
Oh, I like that.
That's that's usually what most businesses would kind of like list under anyone that was into like writing or social media managing. It was like creative development.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, you definitely were a part of that because we like launched the Evoke Network. So Sojourner is one of the people who helped us do that. Like when you guys came in, when was that? When did you start your internship? The fall? No.
January like 19th or something.
Oh, yeah. January. Okay, no, I'm thinking there was a couple of other people who started around November. But anyways, yeah, so January 19th, we were just, actually, I think I think we launched the website that day.
Oh, yeah, no, because I
we
remember you like asking you how to like to see the website and go through it. And you're like, that's not.
Yeah.
Like we're still like I can show you something, but like we're still
like hey. Yeah, but there was there's a small group of us, and like you guys were the team, and it was like so much fun.
It was
and
so
like
much fun.
oh god, like, I love that time.
I feel like now it's like me and you are like the mom and pop, and like all of our kids have just left, and it's just us.
It's kind of true. I mean, there's some people, they're a little bit like removed from it. They work remotely, but like, Sojourner, everyone's like, so what do we need to do to make this work? But yeah, like
adopt more children.
Adopt more children.
Get more
yeah, we have new children. We have new children coming. I don't know. That sounds weird. But yeah, essentially, you helped build it, and then you like went on an epic journey for a month after school.
To find myself. But all I really did was just like pet a lot of animals I wasn't supposed to and get food poisoning.
Oh my God, did you actually get food poisoning a lot? I mean, you're probably adjusting. Where did you go, firstly? Let's tell the people.
So I went to 6 countries, guys.
Oh God, in a month.
Yeah, in a month. That was a lot. I didn't think that through. Because you know, it sounds exciting when you're on a flight every 3 days until you're actually on a flight every 3 days and you're like, I don't want to do this.
That's
anymore.
A lot. I can't even handle like a normal flight. I'm like, oh, that's enough for now, and I can do this in like hopefully another year.
Yeah, I'll be back.
A lot.
Yeah, I did. So I did Southeast Asia. I did 6 countries. We started off in Beijing, China, did 3 cities in Vietnam, and then moved to Cambodia, did 3 cities in Thailand, then moved to Bali, Indonesia, did 2 towns there, and then ended off in Singapore and came back home.
That's quite the
I was wandering, but not lost.
Not lost. Not all wanderers are lost. Is that the quote? I don't know what the
I
quote
think
is.
there's a bunch of different versions.
A bunch
Just
of,
like
yeah.
live, laugh, love, laugh.
Oh God, is that that's like my least favorite quote of all time.
Every time I feel like I see someone with that in their bio, and I'm like,
it's sort of like an instant judgment. Can we be honest?
Yeah, it is. And I don't want to be that.
I don't want to be that, but
good.
like, I don't want to be like that. But like, in the moment I see it, I kind of like, you probably can see it on my face where I'm just like, ew. And
I feel like I just think immaturity because I feel like that's the type of stuff I used to say.
That's a good point. I'm going to say that. It just feels immature, but really when I think of it, I'm like, that's like bullshit.
It's not
bullshit?
true.
Yeah.
It's cry.
Yeah, exactly.
Be depressed and then you die.
Move on.
Move on. Repeat.
Yeah, repeat. Get your shit together. That's sort of my mom. Yeah. No, when I see that kind of thing, I definitely have like a cringe moment. But anyways, you went on such an amazing journey, and I can't believe I was like, oh my God, I'm putting her out into the world, and she'll never come back. And then you did. I was really excited that you did. And yeah, so you're working with us now.
Yes, I am.
Doing some things.
Doing some stuff.
And along with that, you're going to be starting your own potty.
I know.
Podcast.
Guys, she's letting me talk. And record it for an hour.
I'm doing that because for like Sojourner would come into the office and just be like, so guys, what do you think about, and she like present us with this like really intense, like, I don't know if it's like existential, but it's like a this or that, or just like she would really like challenge us, and like you challenge us like honestly in such like an intellectual way that I'm just like, wow, it's so early right now, like it's like 10 a.m. I don't know if my brain is on, like, or 11, whatever. I'm
That's
just
me
like
still in REM sleep. My brain wasn't on.
Your brain's always going, man. I love it. You have a really good perspective of things, and like, and we had such good conversation.
Well, no, I think it was just also because I was writing for Fully Exposed, which is the Taboo podcast, if you guys don't know. And I also had just came off of my own radio show with Ryerson on Spirit Live. That basically was called It's About Time, and it was basically the same type of taboo subject matter. So when you brought that up, I was like, yes,
right down your alley.
I will definitely write for that. Like, I rant about that all the time.
Right. Yeah, so I think it was perfect that you like linked up to write the blog and everything, but then afterward, like with the conversations you created and like perspective you put on the blogs, like it just made sense for you to give a shot at a show. And so it's still in development. We're going to start recording it soon. And you want to give a little bit of like a general about what it's about?
Yes. So names are to be announced for surprise elements, maybe not.
TBA.
But it's essentially going to be about double standards and everything within that, whether it's in the themes of race, politics, health, love, sexuality, relationships, just everything. I wanted to do, while I was on my journey, I was thinking
go away and think about this.
How I wanted to build my voice in this world. I knew for sure that I liked the idea of Fully Exposed because it had such a broad umbrella in terms of where she like what she could pinpoint in terms of topics of discussion, and I knew I wanted to do something like that. I didn't like the idea of being constrained in like one kind of theme. So I thought, you know what, double standards, like I could definitely argue with someone about that. I just want to argue with people.
Somebody. Yeah, it's true.
I just want people to tell me I'm wrong so I could be like, well, according to this research.
Yeah.
Or no research at all and just make up my own. Yeah.
According to my research that I wrote, my opinion is no.
No, you were wrong. So.
Yeah, no, I think it's a perfect theme because I think it's, as you and I talked about it, like it's so relevant and like and it's everywhere. Like it really is within everything. Like we just talked forever about it because it's like you can find it in almost every corner of life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a double standard out there for everything.
Unfortunately.
It's true. Yeah.
Which is why it's just like, and it's weird because both sides are the same, but because they're delivered or packaged differently, it just kind of just changes the whole outlook on how people see it. And all of a sudden it kind of affects people in this really weird and uncomfortable way.
Right.
And I really wanted to touch on that because I love talking about things that make people uncomfortable.
Yeah. But you do it in a good way. You're not uncomfortable while doing it, and it doesn't make anybody feel weird. Like I think that there's like very little judgment passed or like whatever you ask somebody. I never got the feeling that like there's some people just approach things in like the wrong way. Yeah. Like there's a million ways to say one thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like I feel like whenever we'd get into a debate or talking with people or whatever, it It was never like awkward. So
Yeah.
you approach it in a good way.
Thank you.
So people don't be scared about like
I'm not
listening
that
to an
aggressive. But
She's not
honestly,
aggressive.
it kind of backfires because like my boyfriend talks about it all the time. And he's like, you know, whenever I'm debating with him, he'll be like, he'll get so aggressive. I'm like, whoa, dude, like relax.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, because you just don't understand what I'm saying. I'm like, no, I understand. I just don't agree.
It's fine.
Which is fine. Literally what I tell him. I was like, which is fine. We don't have to agree on anything. But I feel like that's the only thing that happens with me is because we go like around in circles usually a lot of the times when I'm debating with people because I'm like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
I just don't agree.
Like I just don't
Yeah,
agree.
I think people approach conversation feeling like they need to either convert the person to what they're
Yeah.
saying, or that if like, and I think I even do this, like I have a bad habit of if somebody's explaining, I've been working on this, like consciously trying not to affirm people that are speaking to me that I don't agree with, because I have in the past, I feel like maybe this is also part of like the whole like you're a woman, you definitely want to be like polite and please people. Like I think that that's ingrained in a lot of us.
Yeah.
That like when I'm speaking with somebody, if I don't agree with them, I'll be like, okay, I can see your point. Just like these stupid like things that are in my vocabulary to reassure the person. But like on a fundamental level, I do not agree with what they're saying. But I'll be like, oh, okay. I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I understand.
I understand. Or there's like these affirmers like that I'll use. And then in my mind, I'm like, I don't fucking agree.
But you know what
That's,
I think
like, not
it is?
right.
You know what I honestly, what if it is some sort of conversion tactic because you want to let the person feel like you agree with them, but then you're also showing them, but look at it my way.
Oh.
So that
I
you
don't
can
even,
agree
I
with
mean, I
me.
wish I was that tactful. I don't think I am. That would be like, yeah.
Because studies have
Maybe.
actually shown like people respond better to like, especially in terms of like conversation,
Yeah.
people respond better to obviously having that like 70% agree and then like, you know, 40% disagree.
Oh, I
and
see.
like they're more inclined to really sway themselves towards the wave, like your way of thinking.
Yeah, if I'm like being really soft about
like,
it.
and not even soft, but more like you're on their side. You don't feel like they don't feel like you're
Yeah,
trying
I guess
to pit.
that's like a manipulative thing that people could do.
I'm just low key manipulative.
I'm pretty sure you just admitted to being a manipulator, but anyways, I just agree with them, and then I just, strike when they least expect
Yeah.
it. I just turn them around, and basically
And then they walk
they're converted.
around, yeah, they walk back, and now they have my
my opinion
too. They didn't
exactly.
know it.
I didn't even know it. No, I wish that I was that tactful. I mean, like, I can see where you're coming from with that, and I do think I can do that on a level. I'll agree with somebody and then say, yeah, but what about, and then I'll insert I'm not just saying like I'll passively just be like, like whatever, but there is times when, okay, I think that this is what I mean. I'm not trying to like insert anything, is when I am listening to somebody who I don't think I can reason with, or that like I'm differing from so far apart. Like if I'm talking to a Trump supporter, that's like speaking to a super drunk person like on the street. To me, I'm not saying they're all drunk, but I mean, it could be.
I love the
no. I'm
picture.
just no meaning that like, okay, maybe I mean more so I should just say a broader political brush. Like if we're to, stroke this with a really broad political view, if I don't agree with that person politically, it will just go in circles, and I don't think anything gets solved in those scenarios.
Yeah.
So I will be like, okay, yeah, I see what your point is. And I'm trying to do that less because I don't really want to affirm people who, not because they might be right in their own mind. That doesn't mean that I know
but just
all.
stubborn. Yeah.
Just stubborn, which is like arguing with the drunk person, like on a street, like, okay, we're not going to achieve anything here.
I know.
I've just heard so many conversations go that way, where everybody is just saying their own piece, but not listening.
Not listening. Yeah.
And
just
also,
talking over each
I'm
other.
guilty of that too. Then,
Yeah.
of not listening.
Just finding out all your faults here.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm just like, listen, I think I'm like affirming people because I'm a woman and it's ingrained in me to please. Anyways, yeah. This is more of like a psychology session than anything else now.
Yeah. Most conversations people.
I know. Yeah, with you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Are you just like people just open up like a floodgate?
Yeah, I think it's because like I share too much sometimes myself, and so
Really?
people. Yeah, I think so.
That's why you think people open up to you?
Open up to me, yeah.
Maybe.
Because like I get embarrassed about really weird things.
Like what? Tricked you. I manipulated that. Let's learn about you more. What are you most embarrassed about?
I get embarrassed about like weird things. Like, I remember when I was almost like, maybe it was 3 days before I came home. My boyfriend was trying to persuade me. He's like, like, why don't you like, you can like come over my house like straight from the airport. And I was just like, no, I would never do that. Something like that. That's so embarrassing. Like, your mom's going to see me with all my backpacks. She's going to see, like, I didn't even come home, like, go home before I, like, yeah, but it's
made yourself up? Or is it something about, like, being proper or something? Or is it, like, rules in your head that you've made up?
Yeah, I don't know if it was just, like, maybe, like, improper, like, wow, this girl didn't visit her own family before. Like, yeah, like, it'd be weird, something weird like that. But then, like, you know, I walk with two different shoes
and she's like, I'm living my life.
Fine, guys.
I'm lost.
I'm lost. Yeah, I don't know. I guess very little, like, I don't know, weird things embarrass me, but not the usual stuff. The conventional stuff. Yeah,
well, maybe that's why. Maybe people pick up on the fact that you're not, like, easily, like, you don't go, oh my goodness, like, why would someone mention that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so because if people think you're open, then yeah, if you're sharing and they get a vibe that you're not going to be, like, judgy or weird about, like, what they say, then they're just going to share.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that too. I definitely get into I get into situations where people just tell me everything, and that's okay. It's fine. But I also have, like, a lot of instances in my life where I find myself not caught in drama because I'm very, like, averse to. I'm like drama averse. Not necessarily conflict. Like, if somebody, like, wants to talk, I will jump headfirst into conflict in terms of, like, I have a problem with something or this person wants to, like, hash something out. Like, I don't want, if I have, like, an argument with a friend or something like that, I don't, like, go, oh, I'll let them cool down. I won't contact them for 2 weeks. I'm, like, trying to get in touch with them to, like, sort it out. Oh, okay. Like, I want to, like, let's talk about it now. So I'm okay with conflict in that way. But then in the flip side of that, I kind of feel like people, I don't want drama, which I feel is very different than conflict. Do you think that it differs?
I think drama, yeah, because I feel like drama comes from the sake of, like, the root of why drama happens is so that gossiping can exist. And so, like, no one actually wants to solve the problem. They just want to add to the story so that there's something to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So drama, I'm very, like, I don't want to really get involved with that. I feel like there was a lot of that in my, you know, earlier life dramas, like, everywhere when you're a kid. But I think that my openness to certain people, let them sort of talk to me about their problems, and I always want to help people, so I end up getting into, like, let me find you an addictions counselor. Yeah, let me.
And then you get so, like, wrapped up into this person's life that you know of, like, I need to like take. Yeah, just like, how did I get here?
Yeah, and it has been bad before in my life where, like, yeah, I need to definitely, like, take a step back and be like, oh, is this really my issue, or should I maybe, you know, take a step back?
I do that too. And then, like, I find myself so overwhelmed with, like, my own issues, and I'm just like, no one's taking on my problems.
Right.
Yeah,
you get,
yeah, and it's just like, I mean, no one technically asked me
to. No one asked you to take care of their problems, and no one has to take care of yours. You just kind of have to. Exactly. Yeah, and it's about, like, knowing how to split that up, I think, but. Yeah, it's a little hard sometimes. We're all learning.
It's live.
But yeah, you know, I mean, what kind of, you're saying you're like you like taboo stuff, and, like, people kind of open up to you. So, like, where does that find its place in your podcast that you're going to be doing with Evoke?
Well, I'm hoping that with all the really interesting conversations I can ensue, that people are going to want to feel that this mic isn't going to be as intimidating as it is to some of my guests already. Because, like, for some reason,
freaked out.
Yeah, they think, like, oh my God, this is going to the police if I say something wrong because it's recorded.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I just want to open up the floor for more conversation, and also just more inclusion in terms of, like, you know, certain things out there do exist, certain perspectives do exist, and it doesn't make it weird, it just makes it different. And there's nothing wrong with that. Whether it's the more unpopular opinion, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be condemned. It's just, you know, that's the opinion of, like, it's not just one person, it's probably the opinion of many people out there. Because I feel like that's one thing that definitely happens in today's, like, digital stratosphere, is just, like, we get into these, like, cyber bubbles, and we think that everyone like us is, like, super liberal and super, like, conscious, and it's just like, well, no, that's just all that you search, and all that the people that you follow are, like, like-minded like that. And so the internet's algorithm is just going to connect you with more people like that. It doesn't mean
Very true.
Like, you know, and a lot of people blame that for the reason of, like, the whole Trump winning. It's just that we weren't aware of how many, because a lot of people were like,
what the impact
you know,
is.
Yeah, like, you know, where did all these conservative people come from? Like, how did he win? Like, everyone loved Hillary, and everyone was for the other team, and, like, and it's just like, I mean, yeah, like, a lot of the celebrities you watch talked about it, but, like, and a lot of your friends talked about it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the other team didn't exist. You just weren't connected.
Seeing a lot of it.
Yeah, you weren't connected with them.
Yeah.
So I think back to my point, I think it's just important to bring up all sides, which is why I definitely wanted to bring up double standards. I don't want it to always be the like really liberal, open, free-minded conversation all the time. I definitely want there to be tension a lot of the times and acceptance in that tension, because I think that's what brings up certain questions that everyone's afraid to ask.
Yeah, I feel like, that's amazing. I'm so excited for it. And I feel like it's a good place for people. Like, I truly believe in like an immersion experience. So like if you're immersing yourself in that thought or like into a person's opinion or something like that, and you can actually like expose yourself to things, like Fully Exposed touches on this stuff. And that's what Jess and I sort of talked about within its inception. And we were saying like, you know, people are closed off and we want to fully expose everybody to these things. And I think that it takes on uncomfortable situation or uncomfortable topics. But like, I also think that there's space for us to debate about those things. And like you said, not necessarily approach it in like the perfect manner in which, you know, it's like everybody will understand and this is like what it is. It's good to converse. I'm excited for, you know,
I'm really excited
your debates.
too. I know.
So what kind of like topics? Like, let's give people a little sample.
So we're going to be touching on topics such as the following ...
Aronde, insert music behind this. Okay, go, Sojourner.
So we're going to be, for our first episode, we're going to be touching on body count, of course, because I was just like, that's the OG double standard.
Right.
And I just have to do it as the first episode. So we're going to be doing body count. One of the other episodes will be about body shaming, skinny shaming versus fat shaming. Another one's going to be the double standards within being socially conscious and what that looks like within certain races. And certain races getting praised for that, but others being deemed as like too sensitive. I know that was, there was an episode in Dear White People that really touched upon that. And like it was really interesting and very creative the way they did it. So I definitely want to talk about that as well. What other ideas do I have floating around?
There's like politics. There's a bunch of stuff mixed in there, but not politics in the like. The
meeting the quota.
Way.
That was another one too.
Meeting quotas.
Racial quotas within the school system and how that helps, but also hinders the progress that they're trying to aim for.
Right.
The double standards within that as well. So I want to touch upon like everything that I can think of.
Yeah. One of the really cool topics that I saw in there was something that you'll touch on, I guess, again, but was the whole like artist versus the art.
The art.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm still trying to finish how I'm going to flip that into kind of double standard theme because I know it exists.
Yeah, there's something there.
There's something there because I feel like I have all these really great ideas, but I'm like, okay, wait, how I need to bring this back to what the show is about.
I know there's so many good
instead of
topics.
just wanting to talk about it for the sake of talking about it.
I know we'd always come be like, wait, right, double standard, we've got to find that.
Yeah. But,
damn these themes.
Yeah, right. These things holding me back.
Yeah, exactly.
But so we're going to be talking about the art versus the artist. I feel like that's a really interesting conversation that's been brought up recently with everything that's going on in the Me Too climate, everything that's going on recently, something that happened within, now it's touching the beauty industry, and what happened within Kat Von D's label as well. So, yeah. I don't know. It's really weird for me to... It's like, how can you... Yes, it makes sense to detach the art from the artist because the art is what they've created and given to you to take as you please with it, or actually with an intended message, and you can let that affect you however which way. But to detach completely the artist from the art, I feel like is very weird to do just because the artist is basically the head of symbolizing what the art means. So, I mean, in terms of, for example, what's happening with Kat Von D right now, if you guys aren't aware, basically about a week ago, she's released a public announcement about the fact that she's not vaccinating her baby that's due really soon, her baby girl. And a lot of beauty bloggers were not for that and speaking up about that and saying, I'm on their PR list and I already know that I'm going to be taken off right away, but I can't stand behind a brand that's not going to, vaccinate their child. This is child abuse. This is child neglect. That child isn't going to be able to get into certain schools, certain colleges if they're not being vaccinated. You're just making a newborn baby susceptible to so many diseases. All the studies on, what is it? Because I think it derived from that study
of like that autism is connected to it, which is not true.
And you know what's interesting? And I brought this up with, who did I bring it up with? I think an Uber driver. I was talking because I just like to have these conversations.
So we're scrapping your podcast idea, and you're just gonna talk to Uber drivers.
Uber drivers. Oh yeah. Oh,
so what do you think about anti-vaxxers? You just
yeah.
Waiting.
Oh, you don't want to hear me in my Uber. We'll just go on. Yeah. But and it was a female, and she was talking about, she believed a lot in the whole autistic thing as well, because she had said, she had told me about this interesting predicament where her neighbors didn't vaccinate, or no, had their child vaccinated, but because they were like late for some shots, they did 3 shots at once, and that ended up actually giving the child autism. And they actually said, that was a mistake.
They admitted to it?
Yeah, they admitted, like, they found after the tracing that because of the chemicals that, like, just, I guess, started to mix in the body.
This is what's difficult.
All at once.
Is autism is a neurological disorder. So I'm just going to lay it right out. Autism is a neurological disorder. So things that can be introduced, and development is a very awkward stage when you start to give a child vaccines. And autism has different ways of presenting itself. You're not just going to have a baby and be like, oh, it has autism. It's very rarely. You cannot really diagnose it right at birth. So often when these kids are of age to get these vaccines, they start to show signs because of the development of their brain. And maybe if they did get vaccines that were fucked up or something and it affected neurologically, maybe, they diagnose it as autism. I mean, I've never, ever heard of someone being like, yeah, this happened. They claim it because parents are freaked out, and it's a super scary time, and it's very hard to
you need something tangible
adjust.
To blame,
you need something to blame, and a lot of parents will do that. And I had never had a child who has autism. I don't have children, so call me whatever you want in terms of that. But that's my sort of like take on it, because I think it's a very
But you don't think that
difficult time.
Certain vaccines could possibly trigger that balance, especially if it's at a very vulnerable stage.
Maybe trigger something, but that would mean that they've always got
always
something.
There, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not a genetic disorder, I don't believe.
Oh no, okay.
As far as I know, it might be. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna claim ignorance on that. It might be because I have heard there being. I'm just gonna claim ignorance. Ignorant. Because I have heard it being connected to if there's other people in the family, and that it could be, so that would make it genetic. That would definitely make it genetic. So I'm not like all perfect on the science of autism, but like maybe there is a trigger or something like that. But then again, that means that the person maybe had a neurological disorder and it wasn't shown yet. Because like it's not often that you're like, oh, I got my shot at school or something like that. Like there's school shots that we get when we're older, and then you never hear about like a child having autism after like that. Being right. Yeah. So you're at a very, very vulnerable stage, and so maybe that vulnerability lends itself to like the trigger, or maybe.
And I think it was just maybe the fact that they got 3 vaccines all at once.
Right. I mean, and you do want to find something to say. But again, like anything's possible. But like from my point of view, I don't think that that's what it is. But I mean, you probably could find people to argue differently. Obviously, there's people like Kat Von D. She's like, I'm not doing this for my kid.
Yeah. And what I found interesting was just the fact that she stated that so publicly.
I was going to ask you, why do you think she did that?
Yeah. And I don't know if that was, I mean, she's been known to be a very vocal figurehead in the media. Like she preaches a lot about veganism and clean eating. Apparently she had this whole scruff with like Jeffree Star, another big beauty blogger. Yeah. And she tried to like bring down his career, but instead, because she's Kat Von D and she's talking about another beauty, like obviously people are just going to pay attention.
She tried to bring down Jeffree Star?
Yeah. Like she tried to come for Jeffree Star.
Really?
Yeah. Oh. Apparently that's how he blew up in the first place.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
He has awesome products. I love him. I follow him. I'm like, oh, it's weird for me who I don't consider I'm not a makeup person at all, but I love it.
Yeah.
I love his stuff. I'm like, I love watching it, but I'm like, oh.
Yeah, no. So I don't know if maybe it's just because she's always been very public about that sort of thing. So this was just
she could consider herself an activist. I mean,
yeah. So I mean, it was really weird for me to hear that she came out like about it like that. But a lot of beauty bloggers took to like YouTube and social media all around, just saying, I can't back this up. I don't think this is morally or ethically right. I know I'm going to get off their PR list, but like I just can't represent a brand that's doing something like this.
Right.
And
yeah.
I watched one beauty blogger. Her name is Snitchery. She's actually one of my faves. And she kind of got into the debate of like whether or not it was justified for her to have, not justified for her to have an opinion, but to back to speak so shamelessly on the brand and say like, oh yeah, I can't like, support a brand like that anymore, because she's like, Kat Von D isn't the only, she is the face of Kat Von D, but she is not the only person working. Like she's like, I've worked with so many great people within that staff and that team, and to say that, to condemn them for like
her
one
opinion,
her
what
opinion,
she's gonna do with her child
as well. She's like, I don't know if that's completely right.
It's sticky. It's so fucking sticky. It's such a situation to deal with, because you even look at like even Louis' like apology letter, Louis C.K.'s apology letter. He listed the projects he currently is doing, and that like this will negatively affect the 1, A, 2, 3, like all these people, and it's true, and I think it's the hardest part of this all.
Yeah, it's just that it's not just your face. Like, it may be your face on it, but it's not yours.
Right.
It's not yours alone. And that's a lot of the thing. That's a big thing that comes with the artist versus the art, is that the art a lot of the time isn't just a one-man show.
No, of course not.
And so when you're condemning the art because of the artist, like, you're not only just condemning that artist. And sure, I guess there's also the debate of, they are reaping the most benefits because it is their face, it is their name that's on it. But what do you really understand?
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, when I said to before, like the hardest part of it, I'm meaning as like an audience member, not obviously to like the people, Kat Von D aside, but within the Me Too climate and everything. Obviously, the worst part of it is that people were hurt, like, and that person's career, they deserve to be punished for what they did. The Kat Von D aside, because it's a little difficult as well, because she hasn't even had her child yet. It's more so we're talking about her as like her moral compass, and it's sort of like, I think it's bloody weird that she would have just made that comment. I feel like maybe if you feel like your baby doesn't really have anything to do with your brand, are you going to be doing like a makeup baby? I don't know. It doesn't really, even if it comes out or you want to really be like straight edge about something and like really go for telling people how you're going to raise your child, cool. But like, she connected the brand with it, and it's kind of like irritating she would do that to the other people.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like really, it ostracizes them from, they get dragged into it.
Into something that they may not even agree with themselves too. And I feel like the whole art versus the artist thing is very interesting because it's so case by case. And with the whole Kat Von D situation, you could easily say, well, that's her daughter, like that's a family personal thing. That's, as bad as it sounds, it's like, yeah, that's only affecting one person, but that she has a right as a mother to, take care of her child how she sees fit. But on the other end, I think it gets a little more extreme with the whole Louis C.K. Incident, because that could literally happen to anyone. That's not a family situation. No. That's anyone that comes
is in a power situation,
in affiliation with Louis C.K. can become susceptible to that. And so anyone can be seen as a target or a victim if they fall into that line of work. And I think that's where it kind of falls as more of like a general concern to the population and to the audience and to the fans and the people that work with him, because it's not just like with Kat Von D, it's happening to her daughter, whereas with Louis C.K., like you can, especially anyone in the media industry can imagine themselves in that position. So it's that's where it becomes scary,
Yeah.
No one can just imagine themselves being part of Kat Von D's family.
I feel really upset because if I was born from Kat Von D, I would just be like, Mom, please vaccinate me. Please, can you please vaccinate me? Because, polio is horrible.
It's not cool.
It's not cool. Polio, it hurts. It's terrible. Anyways, no, I definitely agree with you on that point for sure. Like it's her own decision. I think that's what makes it so weird to me that she did come out and say it, because it is so personal, and it's between her and her husband. Really, it comes down to that. Unfortunately, I do kind of agree that it's like a little bit abusey. Like, it's what the health department is telling you to do. And I get you're going to be like, okay, there's these conspiracies and all this shit too. But like, really, like, it's a bit, I don't know what she knows about like the science of it. I don't know about what she knows about like what danger she's actually exposing her child to. And we live in a privileged time for that. You and I come up in a time when we don't have to really worry about polio. Yeah, like my parents talk about polio like wiping out like some of their neighborhood, like kids being so sick. Wow. And like becoming disabled from it. Some died. Like that's within memory for them.
You know what it is, too? I feel like as much as we don't know what she knows as well, I feel like a big thing that a lot of us don't know, because we've been so conditioned to rely on our healthcare system and all the medicines it provides, is just the idea of natural medicines. And I think that's where a lot of people are falling back. It's not like she's not going to take care of her child if they become sick. She's just going to go to more natural remedies, which a lot of people don't realize can be just as effective. I mean,
yeah, they can be, but then they can also come down to being child abuse. Like there's Canadian cases that I believe there was a child who died from being a non-thriver, which just means like they're not gaining weight, they're not hitting their actual like development stages, and it was from the root cause of like the parents of the child were raising their baby super vegan, like a baby. And obviously Kat Von D must be planning to do that because she's a vegan and she's really like intense on that. But like there was a case where a child died and the parents were charged with its death and neglect because they weren't giving what the health people we were saying you need this, they need to be this weight, and they were so intense on this one thing that it just ended up actually being not the right thing for their child. Just as you might have a child who doesn't digest red meat very well, doesn't mean you force feed them red meat because you're like, red meat is like the lifeblood. How weird would that be if you were a double standard of like a meat eater was like, no, you must like shove this meat in your face. Like that's not. If the kid can't handle it or their system isn't thriving on it, then you fucking change what you're doing. I'm sorry, but like really, but like you're neglecting the right of the child's life.
Especially something as much as like a newborn baby who doesn't really have much of a say.
They can't say anything.
How they take care of themselves. Yeah, it's definitely a big point. But then, okay, so then what do you think? Because like, okay, fine, we're separating like, that's a family personal thing, and Louis C.K., that could happen to anyone that falls in affiliation with him. But okay, where do we stand on the whole Woody Allen thing? Because that is also technically a family thing, keeping it in the family.
That's true, yeah.
And like,
to an awkward degree.
Do we still say like, okay, that's between them, and we keep supporting his films? Like, and I don't know. It's just
so hard. I mean, I'm not like a Woody Allen like fanatic, but I've definitely watched his stuff. There's a few things that I'm like, okay, that's fine. I wasn't even aware of the whole situation because it's not in our lifetime that it's occurred. I mean, he's married to the current person that he was with, his daughter.
Has it been
adopted?
Really?
Yeah, he's still married to her. But like, there's also another child that was involved with it that was not his kid. He's adopted. That was a part of, I think her name is Dylan Farrow, and she had accused him of molesting her. And so, I mean, that was not the one that he married, obviously. So there's allegations, and it brings up the same thought that if he was in this climate right now, like would he? But he is in this climate right now. He's still making films.
He's still making films, yeah. So
and there's a lot of artists who've been talked to about that. I think Greta Gerwig, she did Lady Bird, I believe. She's like a new director on the scene, or maybe she's not new, but she's been noticed right now, like in Hollywood. And she, I think, had some sort of affiliation with a Woody Allen film and was asked before, and she was like kind of nonchalant about it and was sort of like dodged the question, and has followed up with like, I regret my choice to be in a film of his. And there's lots of artists who still, like lots of actors who still support him and still appear in his films.
And it's crazy because it's just like, support him or support his work. Like it's not necessarily his lifestyle or him personally that they're choosing to. I mean, you are kind of turning the other cheek a little bit, but it's the art that they're
Right.
supporting, and the idea of being a part of something that's much bigger than someone else's personal life. I don't really know where I stand with it. Everything there. I guess
Yeah, like if you hear something, are you really like,
What's
oh,
the
I'll
verdict?
never, ever, ever
What's
like.
the verdict for you?
Oh my God. I mean, I guess I don't support the artist.
You don't support. I feel
But
like
it's hard. Like I literally feel, because it's like before Louis, all this stuff was heard about Louis or whatever. Like I went to his shows, I bought his stuff, I whatever, and I was a fan, like a hardcore fan. And I can't I don't feel comfortable calling myself that now, because as much as I'm a fan of his work, I'm more a fan of people not being sexually harassed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what I think it is though too? I feel like I want to say I'm going to go for supporting the art, because at the end of the day, if you do something wrong and unjust, you should be punished. What I feel like we all, obviously, you know, movements are made, and if you want to make a movement to stop seeing you know, Louis C.K. shows, you can.
Yeah.
But I feel like when it comes down to it, that's not going to really make a huge dent. All the time. Sometimes it can, depending on how badly you fucked up. Like, I mean, I think there's a lot of these artists we forget, and celebrities, like they have their money in so many things that their names are very small in the credits, but they're taking a very large lump sum of that you don't realize that you're supporting, but.
Oh, they have investments. It's like, what are you going to find out
what
where
are you gonna
Louis has
do?
all of his money and just like not invest in it?
Exactly. I feel like the only real way to get back to seek justice is for him to get proper punishment, whether that's being behind bars. Like, I'm not talking about a charge. I'm talking about like real serving time, something. I feel like that's where it needs to come down to, rather than I'm just not going to go to a show. Like, I don't think that really teaches someone a real
I mean, what about arts?
There's a small dent in their bank accounts. So, like,
yeah, but is it really a small dent? Like, if everybody stopped going to Woody Allen films, he would stop making films. I mean, that doesn't stop him from being a millionaire, because he's like done what he's done.
Yeah.
He's made lots of money. He probably has like you're saying, like you know, a piece of a lot of different pies, but. At the same point, like if there's nobody to download or stream the art or like to buy the art, I mean, for like an artist like Chris Brown, if people just stopped buying his records, he would no longer, the record label would drop him and he would no longer have anything. Sure, he's going to want to do other things, but is it up to those people to support stuff? And I think it comes down to we all have our own like sliding moral compasses. We can all be aware and know that things are happening, but like, you know, we all are very aware of like how Nike or Apple, like even when you talk about brands, like how they behave and how they conduct themselves, people will separate themselves from knowing that Nike's horrible and Apple has terrible, you know, practices in certain parts of the world, and be like, but there's a shiny new iPhone. So I think we all have like these sliding moral compasses that like find where we want to go. Will I watch old Louis stuff? Probably not. Will I buy a new like a ticket to his concert? Probably not. Like another stand-up show. I don't think I would.
Yeah. I think, you know what, I think where the problem maybe then needs to be solved is with the people with just as much power as these figureheads. Maybe like if you're the label or if you're a movie company, it's like dry them out in that sense.
Oh, they are. Like, they're dropping them, right?
Yeah. And I think that's where the real change is happening, because like, I mean, to leave it to the audience, it can get very wishy-washy. Yeah. And I feel like the whole condemnation in terms of decreasing someone's monetary value, I don't feel like it really leaves them learning a lesson a lot of the time. Like money, not that money isn't important, but I feel like there's something far more that someone would need to lose than money for them to really understand the gravitation of like what they've done.
Yep. And also people need help. I mean, the people who have been damaged by assault need help, but the people who did the assaulting need help too. And that's often in our culture as well. Like in I think Western culture, we often like will demonize people, but then not think about like what has actually caused people to do like the abuse of power and for men to have this over women, and what does that really mean, and why is that happening that way, and how can we stop that, and what's in place for men to have the ability to talk about something that they might not, you know, they might be feeling, because at the end of the day, why did that happen?
Yeah, exactly. Like, where was that coming
Where'd
from?
that come from?
And I think, you know what I feel like is always a really interesting thing when really bizarre stuff like this happens and it starts to get out of the whole Hollywood bubble. It's just the people that are so vocal about talking about these issues and like the really slimy stuff that's happening, but no one listens to them because of how bizarre it sounds. Like you were even mentioning the whole Louis C.K. thing was happening. Like people were talking about it on a podcast years ago, and it's just like, no one was really paying attention to that because it just sounded so bizarre. It was just like when I first heard the whole Bill Cosby incident.
Oh my God, like bizarre.
I was like, I still to this day I'm like, nah, like no.
No. You're a Bill Cosby denier.
I am, honestly. It just to connect my idea
in terms of like you're shocked from it, or you honestly don't believe that it happened.
No,
okay.
Just the shock.
I was like, we're gonna have to have another conversation.
No, it's just the shock. And like I think the idea that we feel like we really personally know a lot of the people that we watch, and so we're so willing to take their word over, you know, someone who could literally quite physically be telling you otherwise is just crazy.
That's so true. We put a lot of like premium on celebrities.
Yeah.
Like when I heard about Louis, I honestly felt like I heard about a friend of mine. Like that's how fucked up it is. Like a friend of mine, like hearing that they had sexually assaulted somebody.
Yeah.
Because I was like, fuck, now I can't watch his stuff. And now I can't, like, I automatically went to a place of like selfish consumerism where I'm just like, now I can't like Louis. I can't like quote his jokes or like whatever. But when you go back and look at Louis, like some of his writing in different shows that he's done, or remember the thing I told you about before?
Hannah Gadsby, like, just like, the article where they talk about like little tidbits of like, he was like, like I'm
writing
really
it
gross
in
person. Yeah. And I think right now it's a very interesting time for comedians in general, and like people like speculating a lot of the jokes they make and like how much is just a joke and how much is truth, because a lot of comedy is rooted in truth and reality.
But the Hannah Gadsby stuff, like her talking about like the self-deprecating type thing.
Yeah, and just being the face of some like you're representing thing, and you're representing someone, and so like when you talk down about yourself, you're talking down on the community. And it's just like she fully said, I have to stop those jokes, or I have to quit comedy because I can't get away with making jokes like that.
It's irresponsible.
It is. And I thought about it, I was like,
what a perspective,
right? Oh my
like
gosh.
She literally had like the first 15-20 minutes, maybe longer, of just like the typical funny you know, musings about life and hilarious stories about her coming out and being a queer person, and like then it just kind of it was great.
It was so good.
Like it actually was like such
hit a nerve. And like it was just so informal as well, in terms of like, you know, the idea of the fact that comedy is like a low bar in terms of entertainment, but like if you saw Picasso or whatever, you went to the museum, like you just feel like you've enriched yourself in terms of
culture and
culture and knowledge.
Exactly.
And and the fact that, and I think that she had a really interesting take on making comedy and merging the two in terms of what's considered highbrow and lowbrow. And the sort of things that you can really take away from all entertainment in general. And the whole point of entertainment and creative industries is to share a message and do that in a way that's easily digestible at the end of the day. Yeah. And it's going to make someone reflect, or just, I guess, sometimes, a lot of the times, it's to take ourselves away from whatever we're dealing with. Media has an impact on us. We can't deny that, and we see that in representation. So anytime media represents something, and if you have a Netflix special and you're representing yourself as a certain way, it's gonna speak volumes to people who watch it, who consume it. You know, we are what we watch. Sometimes we behave certain ways, and if you do surround yourself with good positive things, like, congrats. But there's sometimes like you might just be like, I'm watching a lighthearted comedy special. It's a Netflix special, whatever. But like there's little things in there. There's micro like organisms that live in the words and the way that you view yourself. So you're a queer person watching a stand-up comedian coming at the queer thing as a negative, not outwardly, but even like that. Just like slightly throwing shade here and there. Then you're digesting that without even realizing and internalizing it. and then
That's
displaying
you.
it.
Absolutely.
And because you're like, if this is what that looks like to that person or the general public. And, and I think especially in comedy, when someone says really like outlandish, like something very outlandish, what the instance that you see from that sort of response is laughter. So, and that's kind of that way that your head's like, oh, that's correct. Like everyone agrees because you're now hearing a whole audience respond to it in a positive way.
Right.
And so I think, her whole set was amazing because she really spoke about some real shit.
Like the heavy shit. Yeah. And it was good. It was so good. But you also see like there's the other show, Easy, that you were telling me about. Yes. Yeah. So there's like a really important like piece in there, I think.
Yeah, so it was so Easy is a Netflix original, for those of you guys don't know. It's basically, it kind of has like a Black Mirror anthology kind of theme to it, where not every episode is a continuation of the last. It basically takes place in Chicago, and it follows different types of relationships all across the city. From the first episode deals with the working mom and the dad, the stay-at-home dad, and their kind of
and everything.
Their dynamics and like their faults when it comes to sex, and the fact that like they're no longer following certain gender roles. So how do they like kind of reconnect in terms of that, how they used to, just because they feel like their switch in gender roles or like responsibilities is affecting their attraction to one another.
Right.
Just simple stuff like that. So the relationship that they kind of explained in episode 5 was about this graphic novelist, and basically he blew up.
I love when she's like comics, like his ex-wife is like, I know you just released your comic, and he's like, novel.
Yeah.
He's like,
book, my book.
And she's like, yes, your book.
Yeah. I looked up for it too. Yeah. But yeah, it's about this graphic novelist that blew up from his first book about how he fell in love with his wife, and then he blew up even more because he wrote another book about how his marriage with his wife ended because of an affair he had, and now he's married to the person, and now he's married to the new person that he was cheating on his ex-wife with, and basically he's searching for that sort of relevance again, because now it hasn't, with his third book and talking about like just dealing with losing both wives in general, and how he's kind of come to terms with himself and the type of person he is. No one really cares because I guess the drama isn't there anymore.
Yeah, right.
And so he's seeking relevance. Basically what happens.
All the while like talking about very intimate details of like both marriages.
Exactly.
And not really with their permission. It kind of seemed like they were like, what? Like, wow.
Exactly. And so the really interesting thing about what his predicament was that a lot of his publishers and like his PR was telling him, everyone loved the first and second book. What we need to kind of revamp and push through the third book is a statement from like one of your ex-wives.
Right.
So that we need to hear their side but it's just like, they don't want to talk to me.
Yeah, like, they don't want to hear from me.
I just expose a very biased opinion of what they look like to the general public. And now the general public is ran with it and construed them as whatever monster I played them out to be. And, he's like, I get it, but like, I don't feel like I should be condemned for it because, this is my art.
Life.
This is my life. Like, this is what inspires me. This is what I'm going to write about.
So selfish.
Exactly. And he's
like,
just
there's people who are involved with your life that you don't have the right to their experience.
Yeah, you didn't make up those characters. Those characters are actual
Yeah, so it's a really
people.
good debate on that.
Exactly. And what's interesting about that debate specifically, too, is just like, would you not want to speak up on your side of the story? I feel like I think that was the interesting part, is that both of them shied away and they didn't.
I would have made my own graphic novel. No, I'm not even kidding. Like, how they have response tracks? Yeah. Like, there's artists who will be like, okay, I'm going to respond to that, and they'll like have it back and forth. I'm not kidding. I would like hire a graphic like designer and be like, or a novelist. A book? A book writer? No, like somebody who is an artist, and literally write the response to it and like get that. I would honestly do that.
That's what I found interesting. So basically, plot twist.
I'm all about revenge.
Liz is always looking for revenge.
The plot twist is pretty great though.
So basically what ends up happening, these few college students end up the only people that end up going to his reading.
There's like 4 people. And he's like, let's just go to a bar.
He ends up talking to them about his work and their work. And one of them is this really like, she comes off as this like really vapid, like hot model chick that's whole art. Her voice is through the art of selfieing. And so she selfies her entire life. And that's how she tells a story with all the different relationships she finds herself in with men. A lot of them intimate, a lot of them not. But basically, he goes to this gallery to support the students that came to his reading and finds out that, by the way, BT dubs.
Yeah, BT dubs. There's a BT dubs in there.
He ends up sleeping with the selfie girl.
The vapid one.
The vapid selfie girl. He ends up sleeping with her, and
she takes like pictures.
The next morning, she takes a selfie of his like naked butt mangled in the sheets, and then just leaves.
I was going to say his butt was mangled. She took a selfie with his mangled butt.
His butt mangled amongst the sheets, and then she just leaves. And she's like, "Yeah, like can't
Come
wait
to my
see
show.
at my gallery. Like I think you really love one of the pieces I'm working on. It was inspired by you or whatever." And so he goes to the show and sees his like naked ass like plastered in this really like this like
giant
110 by 200 portrait. And he just went off on her, and he talked a lot about like when he was going off on her and saying this is an invasion of privacy, you had no right, you didn't have my permission. People started taking out their phones and videotaping it and saying. And then he blew up on that as well. He's just like, this isn't art. You guys are all, this isn't subjective or no, this is objective. Like you're all videotaping the same thing. There's no real message behind what you're doing. Like you're just mindlessly consuming information without actually knowing where it's coming from and all this sort of stuff. So it definitely played on a lot of themes that episode. But the big thing was just the idea of invasion of privacy and what are your boundaries in terms of sharing your art and telling your stories, which oftentimes also include other people's stories.
Yes.
And where do we draw the line there in terms of the art, separating the art from the artist, and how you choose to display your art and to connect with people, especially if other people are at risk of being put under a certain light.
Yeah, it was a really good like switch, kind of spun it all on its head.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just really interesting how he kind of saw her way of art as very like surface level and like you're not actually sharing a message here, like this is just you selfies with like all the guys you've slept with and like it turning into like a whole gender and sexuality thing.
It's interesting. I think it also is a great like commentary too on like youth and how their art is a little bit different, not just youth but like younger people, like that art is just a bit different. And because people like also will be like, he's like, I'm like, drawing them. They're like these drawings that are in a graphic novel. They're collected in this way. It's a novel. And you're just taking a selfie. And it's like, okay, but she's, these are planned photos. They might be like in the moment. They're still depictions. They're still a journal of her life in photos. And you mean like if fucking Diane Arbus was like, chilling out and did the same sort of thing and framed it, but like set up something on a tripod and took a picture, is it more art just because she had a tripod and a camera that wasn't on a phone? And I just mean like it was really good because he ranted about the generation being vapid and everything. And it was like people showed up to his book signing after and being like very argumentative with like, so what do you think, like what we create just isn't worthwhile because what? Like, and it was a great perspective.
Where we're not taking like 2 hours to draw something. Right. And I feel like doesn't that make the art a little bit more nerving because it's so raw? Like it's a picture. It's something that literally happened and it's a moment that was captured in time. And is that what makes you nervous or uncomfortable? Because you can actually see it with your own 2 eyes. And these are 2 very real people in a very real moment rather than just a drawing or a painting or a sculpture. Yeah. And I think that also speaks to like how desensitized we've become to things because we digest such interesting increments of reality without actually also knowing the full story or the context that it's coming from. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was. There was also a part of it too where there was he was like I think, just out to dinner with the initial wife, and right at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
And it was kind of cool because he was like erasing something on the book page, and you could see there was like he had erased it a couple times, and that he was drawing something. And it was sort of an interesting thing now that I'm thinking about it after everything's been said and done, that he was like really, really, really like, it was a contrived sort of thing of like how he wanted that frame to look. But everything about her art is not contrived. I mean, not everything, because she is posing herself.
Yeah.
But it's
contrived because it's out of context, but
right.
it's not necessarily that manipulated. Like
no, exactly.
The moment is real. The context
is
just
yeah.
You can make whatever you want out of it.
Right. Yeah. And it's still art regardless, right? Like
exactly.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very important conversation. I think it's what your podcast is going to do, which is talk about stuff. You got to talk about it. Talk about stuff. We're going to call it Talking About Stuff.
Talking about stuff. Or just stuff.
Just stuff. Talk stuff. No.
As you can see, it's still a work in progress.
It's like a work in progress. We're developing. We're in development.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm excited for everything you're going to bring to the network, and I want to thank you for coming on and chatting.
Thank you.
And talking about all the cool stuff. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
I know. Thank you for having me as well. I can't wait to start recording now. Yeah. You need to be one of the people that I argue with. I just feel like we're also like very similar. Yeah. So when we say yeah, we're actually agreeing with each other. We're not just like, oh, I understand.
Oh no, it's like true. Yeah. It's true agreement. For sure. Where can people do you want followers? Followers should flood on over to your Instagram, right?
Follow me. So my handles are at Sojourner Fran on all platforms. Actually, all platforms. I have Instagram, and that's about it.
All platforms.
All platforms.
LinkedIn at Sojourner Fran.
Oh, I need to update that.
I'll help you with that. But on the side note, so Sojourner Fran.
SAJURNA FRAN. My name is actually Sojourner. Mm-hmm. I don't spell it properly for the sake of making it easier for people to pronounce, but it doesn't actually help.
That's okay. People are going to find you. We'll post the link in the episode notes, so you guys can find that there. And yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, bye.
This has been an Evoke Media podcast.